Welcome, one and all, to the first NFL episode of the Hurdle Podcast.
Let's go!
For the 2023 season. That's what this podcast was built on.
Yeah.
It was built on football. It was always going to be about football. And we're back with some NFL football.
Took an NFL season off.
I mean, hey, we're
Too many correct predictions in one season for them to get two in a row.
we kind of Tom Brady'd it, didn't we?
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little longer, but a little bit.
Kind of 7 rings, that thing.
I won't go that far, but yeah. No, ton of fun freshman year doing football podcasts.
Yeah.
Again, took the year off last year, but we want to get back into it because we feel like we missed one of the greatest NFL seasons
In a while.
in a long time, and we're going to capitalize on that momentum going into this year.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off the NFL podcasts with our top 5 rankings of players going into the year.
Yep.
This is kind of where
Per
I think,
position.
yeah, per position. I think we kind of went off of what we expect from this year,
Mhm.
like coming into this, like not taking last year into account, but also looking forward. I feel like,
All personal bias.
yep, it's all personal bias. We're gonna have differences,
Yep.
and then we'll kind of lay them out, talk about them.
Mhm.
I don't feel like we'll have any too big disagreements. It might just be order, I think, for some of these guys. But Bailey, I mean, take it away.
Okay. So, yeah, top 5 per position. Starting at QB. We'll work our way through the offense. Then back up to defense.
And special teams. We showed
And
them.
yes, we do have special teams.
That one took more research.
A lot more research. So starting at 5, working our way up to 1. My number 5 quarterback for me is Justin Herbert.
Very fair.
I think when we look at Herbert's talent and just the season he had last year, I think that's his floor, to be honest with you. Cracked ribs earlier in the year. Keenan Allen goes down. Mike Williams goes down. Mike Williams goes down into the playoffs when they play in week 18 for absolutely no reason.
Yep.
So he just had to force feed Josh Palmer, and Eckler had 107 catches last year. He was force feeding Eckler for 3-yard swing routes and still had over 4,000 yards and was still a top 5 quarterback in my opinion, even though the stats probably don't say that. I think when you look at the throws he has to make, I mean, the arm talent is out of this world.
I think he probably has, outside of Mahomes, I think he has the second best arm in the league. And that's saying something because I think Josh Allen has a great arm too.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
Herbert's arm's second best.
Yeah, I would agree. He's up there. He's probably in the top 3 to 4 for me. And he makes clutch plays, and he also gets hurt by god awful play calling. Staley is a god awful coordinator.
And guess who they brought in to fix that?
Ellen Moore, and I think he's a fantastic coordinator. So I do think Eckler's catches will go down this year. I don't think they're going to be down significantly. They'll probably be in that 70 to 80 range. He won't be triple digits. I can guarantee you that. It's not going to be 140 targets. I mean, I don't even think 15 receivers last year had 140 targets. So we're going to cut down on Eckler. More big plays to Williams if he stays healthy. They bring in Johnston and Keenan Allen, who's, when healthy, a guaranteed 8 for 85. Like, that's his week to week. He's guaranteed 8 for 85.
That's why he's so fun to draft in fantasy, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Just because he's always
The
going to get those
consistency.
catches.
And he's always going to be there for Herbert when he's on the field. Same thing with Williams. And I love the potential of this offense. I think they could be a top 5 offense this year with a top 5 quarterback at the helm. So that's why Herbert's my 5.
And I think the other big thing to look at is they're getting left tackle back. Christian Slater. I think that'll be huge for him. Won't be getting hit as much.
Yes.
So Herbert's not my 5. I definitely considered it. I would say Herbert's like my 6 or 7.
Oh.
I'm going with my guy that I've been raving about,
Yeah.
who I will be putting money on to be a dark horse for MVP.
Don't spoil the other podcasts.
I'm sorry. Low teaser. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I think for me, he looked so great last year with Doug Peterson as his head coach. I think that'll just look better this year. And if anything, they loaded up and got better. You bring in Calvin Ridley off suspension. He's the number 1 receiver.
1,400 yards before he got suspended.
Exactly. He was a dog in Atlanta when Julio
Matt Ryan
Jones.
was bummed.
Yeah, and when Julio Jones was hurt, he was the number 1, and Matt Ryan had no arm strength, no accuracy, no nothing. And he put up 1,400 yards. And you could argue he has one of the better young quarterbacks throwing him the ball now. They bring back Evan Ingram. They keep Christian Kirk. ETN, I think, is going to have a huge year offensively.
Draft another tight end.
Draft another tight end in Musker? No, they didn't.
No, that was Green Bay.
Who did they draft? So bad.
It was a 3rd rounder. It's okay.
It's
They bring in another tight end.
They bring in another weapon. And I think the offensive line will play better. I don't think they brought any pieces that way, but they played pretty good last year. I don't remember ever hearing T.L. getting sacked a ton.
Yeah, it wasn't getting smacked around in the backfield at all.
Yeah, but again, reason he's my dark horse. I think they finally get him a receiver 1. And I really like what T.L. has going for him. I think his rookie year was rough, but he also had Urban Myers as head coach, so who wouldn't play rough?
Yeah.
So really, I look at last year as his rookie year,
Mhm.
and he played great last year. Got Jacksonville in the playoffs, won a playoff game in a great comeback fashion against the Chargers. So that's why I have him at my number 5.
Brenton Strange, tight end.
Never would have gotten that.
Yeah.
Never would have gotten
Second
that.
rounder, my bad. Very late second rounder. I can see the Lawrence love. I completely understand.
Oh, it's hype. It's pure hype.
It's a lot. I think it's a touch too much just for my taste, in the fact that he made a huge leap last year, and last year was only year 2. And people are going into the year like you, looking at very aggressively in terms of his future, which makes sense because you took that big leap last year. I just think, and like you said, second year in the Peterson offense, they bring in the tight end, which he loves to run the 2 tight end sets. Think Ertz Goddard in Philly. He's going to run those to death. I think ETN could be a huge factor this year. In the backfield, they bring in Bigsby.
Take Bigsby for a power back.
And they drafted a tackle in the first round. They drafted Anton Harrison. So they bolstered everything for Peterson to have his offense. And like you said, you bring in Calvin Ridley. Kirk is still there. Zay Jones is still there. And Engram is still there, who was massive down the stretch for them. So I can see the love. I'm a little less optimistic, I think, on Lawrence just personally. I think I see more positive regression for Justin Herbert in the fact, which is why he's my 5. So I'm wondering if Lawrence maybe plateaus a little bit more this year, but he could also be on an exponential growth right now, and he could be up near 5,000 yards.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the Herbert pick too because of bringing in Kellen Moore to run that offense. Because that's really been the missing key, I think.
Yeah.
LA is just
get Lombardi out of there.
The offense has just been, there's so much talent and they're never consistent.
All you got to do is watch the second half of the Jags Chargers playoff game.
That's
to
all you gotta
realize
watch.
why they needed a new play caller.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So my number 4 is Jalen Hurts.
That is also my favorite.
It's 1 year, I think, is my thing.
That's what happened.
I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal this year. If Sirianni keeps running out that bully formation, Hurts could have damn near 20 rushing touchdowns this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He had 13 last year, and you still had running backs like Miles Sanders had double digits last year. And of course, it's not going to be just all Jalen Hurts all the time. It's not Sean Chambers in Montana State. That's not what's going to be happening here. But just the rushing upside, he was down on yards per carry last year, and he still had 750 near. That could be, if that goes up a yard a carry, which isn't asking much from the best offensive line in the league.
Yeah,
hands down, not even close. You get that, he had 130 carries, that gets him up towards 1,000. If you see the passing numbers tick up from 22, 23 passing touchdowns up towards that 27, the 3,000 yards up towards the 3,500, maybe even 4. Philadelphia's offense could be legit unstoppable. We're getting another emergence of Devonta Smith, in my opinion. I think there's actually odds that Devonta Smith outscores AJ Brown in fantasy points this year, even though I still love AJ Brown. And AJ Brown had 1,500 yards last year. I think that's how good this offense can be. And they only got better all the way around. They bring back everyone on the line.
Yeah, they got Kelsey to come back for 1 more year.
And maybe this is foreshadowing towards another podcast on my opinions of Hurts and the projections I have for him this year, but I think he's by far and away the fantasy QB1. And almost in his own tier. I think he's going to be phenomenal this year, and he'll probably be number 2 on my list by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. I hate doing this because it's a Philly quarterback.
Yeah.
And again, I kind of agree with Bailey. I think it's a 1 year thing for me. He did not look good that first year, roughly.
Okay.
That's the Tampa playoff game just sticks out to me. Just
yes. Yeah.
That was god awful. He played terrible. He looked flustered. But again, first year,
he's worked hard at it though.
Exactly. He's He's embraced the dog mentality, and I think last year was a great show of that. I think this year again they brought everything back for him.
Yep.
Everything, and they got his contract out of the way, right?
Yeah, 5 years,
Okay,
250.
perfect. No contract worry. Like, there's nothing for them to worry about now except win.
Yeah.
And with those weapons, and I mean,
Style of
you
offense
don't
fits
need
him.
much at running back.
Yeah, that
when you
style
have
of offense fits him perfectly.
Yeah, it gives you shades of what he ran at Oklahoma his senior year. Like, I think it'll be fun to watch until they play Dallas. Then it won't be as fun to watch. But
Week 2 against Minnesota.
or week 2 against yeah, we both got to play him at least once. So we're gonna be in agony together. But yeah, Jalen Hurts is my 4 as well.
Yeah,
I'm sure this is gonna be concise.
They're a fumble 6 and a holding penalty away from a Super Bowl.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can expect anything less of Jalen this year. My 3 is Josh Allen.
Yep. He's so
I
tough.
only have one worry ever when it comes to Allen, and it's just decision making. And it's he just turns the ball over in crucial spots early in games, and when he does that, hence the Cincy Buffalo game, which is why they got absolutely demolished. It's like he was either turning the ball over or they weren't getting it on 4th down, and they were just forcing and forcing and forcing. And every year it's, hey, we're gonna hold Allen back in the rushing game. We're gonna hold Allen back in the rushing game. But statistically, he hasn't ever dipped. And I honestly, why don't you just run the freaking Jalen Hurts offense with him? I know he's got a cannon arm and you got Stephon Diggs, but why isn't Allen up near 13, 14 rushing touchdowns?
He should be because they don't have much at running back. I mean,
Exactly.
James Cook is fine, but like very unproven to say the least.
Just take a page out of Philly's book. It clearly works. I know you don't have Philly's O-line, but Allen is much bigger than Jalen Hurts. We're talking 2 to 3 inches in height.
Probably 20, 25 pounds.
25 to 40 pounds in weight. And he trucks dudes over. So I actually want to see him a little more unleashed on that. I know you don't want your quarterback taking hits, and he is a hit magnet. But if he's just going to bowl over middle linebackers for a living, just let him do it and unleash him on that end. And passing wise, you have Stephon Diggs. You have Gabe Davis, which for some reason after last year, he was quote unquote disappointing.
No.
He was fine, I thought. I mean, he had a high ankle sprain week 2 and kind of slowly evaporated over the course of the season from there. But he's coming back fully healthy this year. And the offense is not going to change.
No. Davis
is still the wide receiver 2 in a very, very, very good offense, and there's a reason they're really good. It's because of Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to the turnovers, and that kills them every year. It seems like it doesn't matter what game they're in. It's always a turnover worry because, I mean, again, Josh Allen has one of the best arms in the league.
Yeah.
It's purely based on decision and accuracy, just sometimes. And I love Josh Allen, Wyoming kid. Like, I've seen him play at college. I worry with that, and I worry with occasionally I worry with him and Stephon Diggs. I do at times because
You mean like on the field or off the field?
I think a little bit of once they get on the sideline.
Yeah.
I worry about that because of how competitive they both are and how stubborn a Stephon Diggs can be. It worries me when your receiver 1 can have issues with your quarterback. It worries me. And maybe that's why he forces some balls, and that's why there's turnovers.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I think they need to go with this mentality that they're getting Von Miller back after week 4, who was a game record when he was healthy. They are all in.
Yeah. And like Trey White was not good last year. It's hands down. He was coming off of injury, of course, but he was not good in coverage last year. Their defense should be better this year than they were last year, and they still had a top 4 or 5 defense last year. It's just making the big plays, and it's like the one game Allen played perfect football, they lost in the Bills-Chiefs game.
Yep.
They lost in 13 seconds. And Allen literally did not miss a beat in that game. And it's literally the best game he's played.
Are you talking the playoff game?
Yeah, the playoff game, the 13-second game. And Allen was perfect. It's one of the best football games I've ever seen any quarterback play, hands down. I think it's probably in my top 3. and Mahomes played just as good that game,
Yeah.
which at some point you got to tip the cap, but I don't think we've seen, I think that's kind of haunting Allen at this point in his career right now. We haven't seen him get back to that point. We've seen him be really, really, really good. We have not seen he was putting balls in places I did not think they could be placed there. And he was doing it constantly. Every throw was just crisp lasers, and they were beautiful. It's the best game I've ever watched between two quarterbacks. And I've watched a lot of Brady Manning.
I was gonna say Brady Manning.
And that's probably the best game by two quarterbacks I've ever seen. So we know what his potential is as a thrower. When he makes the right decisions, that offense is unstoppable.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Unstoppable. So
they got talent all over the field.
But the guy I have it too, Joe Burrow.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't make those decisions. Doesn't make the bad decisions, and is a straight up winner.
He knows how to win.
Yeah. Straight up winner. He's got Chase. He's got Higgins. They have the weapons. Now they bring in Orlando Brown Jr. They're protecting his ass.
They're getting Lyle Collins back.
Collins off a torn ACL, which is of course gigantic because he was playing as a top 5 tackle before he tore his ACL. So now they have 2 superstar tackles. They still have a run game. I'd actually like to see them lean on the run game a touch more, I think. I think Mixon was severely underused last year. And I know you got Chase, and I know you got Higgins, and I know you got Tyler Boyd. And they bring in Irv Smith this year as well, who I think is a fine tight end.
He'll work great that off.
As long as he doesn't get hurt, he's a good tight end. And they bring him in on a minimum. But it's like when Chase got hurt last year, they never really turned to Mixon outside of the 5 touchdown game. And everyone knew that was a one-off once that happened. I believe that was the Carolina game. So I think if they lean a touch more on him and let Burrow just be, and that just allows Burrow to be just so much more precise. I think it opens up the offense just so much more.
He doesn't have to force anything.
And he doesn't have to force anything unless it's a Jamar deep ball where he knows he likes the matchup every single time he's throwing that rock.
I mean, because he's down there, man. Like
same thing with Higgins too.
Yeah, I think my only concern always with Burrow is injury. I mean, there's questions if he's gonna play the first week. Like,
sounds like he's playing.
Yeah, it sounds like I hope he's playing. He's my fantasy quarterback, but it's always a concern with him that you don't see with Jalen as much and with Josh Allen as much. So that's my only worry with him is him staying healthy. Mm-hmm. But when he's healthy, I think he's one of the best throwers of the football. It is so pretty watching him throw football. It gives you shades of the LSU year every time he throws the ball, I feel like. And again, if they can keep him upright with everything they've invested in that offensive line.
He doesn't miss throws.
No, he's so accurate. He is the best. I think he's the best decision maker at quarterback.
Probably.
I would agree. I would agree because even like Mahomes will just sometimes throw.
Rodgers actually.
Yeah.
Rodgers just doesn't throw picks
either. Yeah, he just doesn't throw picks. But I think for the explosiveness that Joe Burrow brings with that offense, it's just I love watching the Bengals. The Bengals are like they're just such a fun team to watch. Like I don't hate the Bengals as much as I would say I did during like the perfect years, you know.
Yeah.
Like I can cheer for the Bengals and be fine with it.
Absolutely. So Burrow too, and then of course
Mahomes.
Mahomes on one leg, Mahomes with one arm,
with a bad ankle,
Mahomes with no opposing thumbs. I mean, he's number 1 no matter what.
He's so good.
He's already a top 3 quarterback all time in my opinion. 2 bowls. Two bowl MVPs.
Has never not
5
won an AFC
straight
championship.
AFC championship games. 3 Super Bowl appearances. The resume speaks for itself. 2-time MVP. Not my favorite to win it this year, just because it's so hard to go back to back. But he's undoubtedly the most clutch performer in the playoffs. He's the best regular season performer.
Yep.
He's the best improviser. Yep. And he's the best improviser in the offense that improvises the most.
Yep.
With a tight end that improvises the most.
That plays like a receiver.
So basically a receiver that improvises the most.
Yep.
And they're always on the same page. And it is unfreaking stoppable.
It gives you shades of Brady Gronk, but Mahomes is just so much more, what's the word?
Versatile.
I think versatile would be a very fair word.
Unpredictable.
Yeah, I think watching Patrick Mahomes can be so unpredictable because like you watch him in like the Tampa game in the regular season and it looks like he's running it in and he does that little flick
Yeah.
And it's just like no other quarterback can do that
Mhm.
ever. Like I don't think ever.
Mhm.
And you get that at a guy who's just turning 27. Like
Yeah. I
he'll be
think
running the league next 10
I think
years.
the thing that's crazy too is just like when we like the Brady Gronk comparison with Mahomes and Kelsey. Brady and Gronk was structured under a Belichick offense. They say, we're scheming this for Gronk, you're gonna hit him in this exact spot, and they just did it over and over and over and over again until every person watching the National Football League was known.
Yep.
When you're
course you
game
will.
planning for Mahomes Kelsey, you have no idea what's coming. You have no idea. It could be Mahomes running to the left and throwing a pass 20 yards to the opposite side of the field where Kelsey's just waving his hands wide open.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't scheme for that. Brady and Gronk was so much more linear in terms of their fashions. Mahomes Kelsey is not.
Yep.
So I think while we can say yes, they're clearly the 1-2 in terms of quarterback tight end duos of all time. They play in such different ways, yet it's utter dominance every time they touch the
Yeah, and it works every time. I mean, it's so hard to not just sit there and go, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP every year.
Yeah.
He's getting into that Rodgers Brady kind of like they should win the MVP every year.
Yep.
And it's fun to watch because like we get to see the beginning of it. Like we weren't obviously big into football like when Brady got in the league because we weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
But like, and even with Rodgers, we were 4.
Yeah.
Like we got to see young Patrick Mahomes when we were right in our prime of watching football. And you just kind of, it's like you grow up with him. It's going to be so fun when we have kids to be like, yeah, I remember when the Chiefs traded up with the Buffalo Bills hint, to get Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I forgot they traded with Buffalo. That came to my head. Like
That's crazy.
Times they do a change. How much I bet Buffalo wishes they never would have done that.
Yeah, so Mahomes, I could argue he's like a top 6 player all time already. And he's 27 years old.
Yeah.
So I think we only have 15 more years of Mahomes doing this.
Just 15.
Yeah, just 15.
Something
And
like-
Andy Reid's probably gonna be there 15 more years, and maybe Kelsey plays till he's 51. Who freaking knows? Running back,
Okay.
5 for me is Austin Eckler.
I also have Austin Eckler. I had someone else there, but I went with the versatility of Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I love pass catching running backs. I'll tell you, who's not on my list is Josh Jacobs. I know he had 1,600 yards.
He was
last
my
year.
5.
He was your 5.
He was my 5.
I actually never even really considered him. 400 touches in a season is absurd. But I think what's even more absurd is 107 catches out of your running back.
Exactly.
And I know he's not a great yards per carry kind of guy. He's more of a volume guy kind of guy, and he's a fantasy dominant kind of guy because the last 2 years he has 38 combined touchdowns.
Yeah.
Which is just an insane number, and it puts LT's season into context when he had 31.
Yeah.
But man, he's a really good football player, and he's a guy I would absolutely want implemented into my offense because it's another threat out of the backfield that teams are not ready for, much like 1 or 2 of the guys further on my list.
Yeah, and exactly. I think the reason I didn't put Josh Jacobs is I'm always concerned about him being disgruntled right now. Like, yes, he got his contract, but he does not want to be there at all. Kind of with Eckler, that's why I was almost a little hesitant, and also with how Kellen Moore's probably going to run this offense, but I frankly don't care. When you have the weapons and tools, you make it work.
Yep.
And I think it'll be fun to see how Kellen Moore kind of implements that. I think that's what he was trying to get at Tony Pollard there. Once Tony Pollard was getting a lot more of the touches. So I think it's going to be fun to see with a more established back. So I think there's a big year potential for Austin Eckler for sure, especially in that offense.
Every year is a big year for Austin Eckler. Counting stats are just absurd. I got at 4. I think this pick could be a touch controversial, but I got Derrick Henry.
Okay.
I'm assuming probably gonna be higher on your list, but just the injury concern, like the wear and tear is starting to show, in my opinion. Yes, is he still the heart of Tennessee's offense? Absolutely. And is he going to be force fed another 300 carries this year? Probably.
Probably 350.
Probably 350. But I think I like what Tennessee's doing a little bit more than what Arthur Smith was there, because now you're getting Derrick Henry on these screens where he's getting open space, and an open field tackle against Derrick Henry is the hardest thing to do in football.
I would never wish that on my worst enemy.
No. So, and of course, just the sheer power and specimen that Derrick Henry is.
A true one of them.
makes him a top 5 running back. It's just the injury concern, or especially over the last 2 years, has been worrying. The 400 carries is just not sustainable. Like, that's why I'm not big on Josh Jacobs for fantasy this year. I don't think it's going to be 400. I think 400 is an absolutely absurd number that almost no running back should ever be touching, unless your name is Barry Sanders or Adrian Peterson.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah.
Or LaDainian Tomlinson. Yeah. So, also Henry's a little bit lower on the list, just because he's not really a dual threat guy.
That's fair.
You know what you're going to get straight up, and it's just like you said, in our last podcast with the Montana State offense, it's just like stop it. So and you can't.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a testament to that. And prime Derrick Henry is one of the most unstoppable players ever. If he has another prime season, I think Tennessee could actually be a really, really, really good football team that's under the radar right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Derrick Henry is a little higher up on my list. Before I got Saquon. I love Saquon.
He's my 3.
Okay, yeah, fair. So we just flip-flopped them.
Okay.
So Saquon, my concern is also injury because this was the first year he was healthy.
Yes.
Of any time of his career. The
Besides rookie.
healthiest he's been in the last few years. That is concerning. Just because he was an injury prone back for 2 years. Like, he just was. Like, you can't sugarcoat that. But what he brings to that Giants offense, I think, is so unique because he is a power back at the end of the day. I feel like he runs people over, but he's one of the better receiving screen catchers at running back just because of the athlete he is and the athleticism that he has. So I think that's where he's maybe a little more valuable to compared to a Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
I worry about his knees because that is always the issue with him. And I'm worried about if Daniel Jones doesn't progress like he did last year, if they're going to lean way more on him in the run game, which just is why he got injured 2 years in a row.
Yep.
It's because they were force feeding him the ball those 2 years.
Yeah.
But if Saquon's healthy, he could be the number 2 back in the league, I think, if he stays healthy.
I think those are all valid points. I don't know. I kind of think we saw Daniel's ceiling last year. How we saw the best version of Daniel Jones we're most likely going to get. I know we get another year in the Dable offense. He was actually really good last year.
It's that concern of the fall for me.
Yeah. So yeah, you also have that. But I think where he was underutilized was in the pass game, specifically in the red zone. He had 0 receiving touchdowns last year, which I think is kind of a shocker in my opinion, because before that, I forget, was it McAdoo who was their offensive coordinator? His rookie year, he had like 70 or 80 catches. And in the Dable offense, it's much down. He's more single threat, but he's still so freaking good. And he can do anything on the football field you ask him to do. He can block, he can run routes, he can catch. He's shifty as all hell, and he can run a dude over.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for in a running
That's what
back.
you want.
And he does all those things just about damn well as well as any running back in the league. So while I think he's the second best all around running back in the league. And maybe I should have him at 2 now that I'm like saying this aloud. But just his value to the Giants offense is it can't be undermined. He's the offense on that team. I wish teams would buckle up and pay running backs so that this fiasco could be over. But it's a statistical argument that running backs can't win. They just can't win these arguments, and no team's ever going to do it unless you're San Francisco and you're paying the clear number 1 in my opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. So you hit on your 3. I would say yes. I mean, mine's Derrick Henry. He's the whole offense in Tennessee. He will be the whole offense in Tennessee. If they run him into the ground, so be it. I don't know how many more years we're going to have of a great Derrick Henry, but I think this might be a year they have to lean on him a lot.
I think D-Hop is going to help a ton. I think that's underrated.
It's just the quarterback play scares me.
Yes.
If it's too inconsistent, they're going to lean on the run because that's what Vrabel has always done. And you're either going to see a devalued D-Hop or a healthy and still productive Derrick Henry, which could get you the best of both worlds, honestly. If D-Hop's playing well, then Derrick Henry will probably be playing more efficiently.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw that with the AJ Brown years. Those are Derrick Henry's best years. Derrick Henry wasn't getting hurt in those years.
Yep.
So I think having a superstar wide receiver one, which I do think D-Hop still is. He did the best thing an older player can do. He took steroids.
Yep.
So that's going to extend his career.
Another couple years.
Probably another 2 years. And the physical effects will wear off eventually. But I mean, he's in his low 30s. He's getting up there in age as far as superstar receivers go. This is where we saw the Julio fall off. So I think Tennessee kind of has that curse. But if there's any receiver that's going to do it, it's going to be DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion. And he's going to be getting all the targets there. And Traylon Brooks will be getting very little to few. And they have Okonkwo, right, as their tight end. And he's fine. So, completely agree. Yeah. My two's Chubb.
Yep.
My one's McCaffrey.
Yep. I think they're clear-cut 1 and 2.
I could argue Barkley in that tier, but like you said, the injuries, Chubb's just been
and now he's the one.
So underrated over the past years. I think I would agree he's the best pure runner in football. Sorry to steal that sentence right out of your mouth. But
you knew right where I was going.
Yeah, he is the best pure runner in football. Much like Barkley, just runs over dudes at that size. And still has the agility. And I think I'm projecting forward here. I think he's going to catch a shit ton of balls this year.
I think he will because he won't be splitting touches.
Yeah.
He's not going to be splitting touches that he did with Kareem Hunt. So that means he's going to be on the field more, which means more opportunities in the pass game, in the run game. And especially when you're trying to get Deshaun Watson back up to what he was in Houston, I think getting the running back involved out of the backfield is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. So Chubb 2, McCaffrey 1. What else?
He's the most versatile player in the National Football League. He does it all.
Yeah. You could argue McCaffrey is the best pure runner in football. But he's hands down by far and away the best receiving running back. I know Eckler had 107 catches. I do not give a damn. McCaffrey is just, in my opinion, so much better of a route runner, so much explosive after the catch. And maybe that's because of the Chargers offense last year just being basic as hell because everyone was hurt. So it's just like 3-yard swing route to Eckler. And if we do that 4 times, we get a first down. McCaffrey is just so much more explosive after the catch, in my opinion. He makes people miss just constantly. Such an aggravating.
He's a mismatch.
And Shanahan uses that dude to perfection. There's a reason Brock Purdy went 7-0 and McCaffrey went 7-0 at the end of the season because their starts correlated. I don't know how much I can attest that to Brock Purdy. I do know how much I can attest that to McCaffrey being an absolute animal in the backfield.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, with every running back, there's injury concerns. That's my only concern with all of these running backs. But McCaffrey's is enough for me to just go like, I frankly don't care. He's so versatile. He's a matchup nightmare.
Yep.
He does so much for that offense. He draws so much attention. And let's not forget, they still have George Kittle. They still have Deebo Samuel. Like, they have weapons all over the field, and you can't cover them all.
Yeah.
And eventually one's going to start going off, and you're going to have to cover the other one. And then that's where McCaffrey just goes off and gets 95 receiving yards and 110 rushing yards. Like,
yeah.
That's just what happens.
Triple crown. Throws a touchdown, catches a touchdown, runs a touchdown.
It's just what happens.
He's my 3rd favorite player watching the league behind Jefferson and Kelsey, in my opinion.
Yep. So. Offensively, yeah, absolutely.
Receivers, 5. Steph Diggs.
Okay.
For me. I hear what you're saying with the sideline issues.
He's drama. He just is.
It's just so much talent that I can't ignore.
That's right.
And when you have Josh Allen throwing in the ball, he was underrated last year. He was a top 4 receiver last year. Not only fantasy wise, but just straight up, in my opinion, top 4. He's one of the best route runners in the league. He makes catches almost no one else can make, except for really the 4 guys I have above him on this list. And injury hasn't even really been a concern for him. He's just been there, steady, consistent, 1,400 yards, double-digit touchdowns. He has that threat. Steph Diggs easy at 5 for me.
My number 5, Jamar Chase.
Oh.
I love Jamar Chase.
Speak to me.
I love Jamar Chase. But I'd put 4 dudes ahead of him that I just think one-on-one are just purely better.
Is Diggs on your list?
No.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
I think that if Jamar Chase did not have Joe Burrow, I do not think he'd be as well-rounded of a receiver as he is. He has so much talent. For me, it's tough because he is still just so young. Like him
His
and
third year, right?
yeah, third year. And I would say his rookie year.
One of the best rookie receiving seasons ever.
Exactly. So that's hard to follow up, and that's maybe where I'm
And he got
kind
hurt
of
last
going
year.
with this. Yeah, and he got hurt. So there's that injury concern, but no doubt a top 5 receiver for me, just based off age and the talent that he always produces. And he has one of the best suits around in football. So yeah, I have him at 5.
Or Cooper Cup.
Yep, same.
Triple Crown. Do I need I say much more? I think he's
Healthy
top 3
quarterback
route
play.
runner in the league. He's in a McVay scheme that just looks for him constantly, and he's open every single freaking play. I say it about Kelsey all the time. I won't even see Kelsey on the screen. I'm like, yeah, he's probably open. And Mahomes will throw a 30-yard strike to him for a touchdown. Same thing with Cup. Even if Cup's not on my TV screen, he's probably open. And Stafford's going to sling some 40-yard ball in there. So if the Rams can actually protect Stafford and the team can freaking stay healthy, I love the over of the 6.5 wins that they're at. That you can find all over sports books right now. Not gambling advice, but need I say more about the Triple Crown season? He was hands down the #1 receiver that year. It's maybe the greatest receiving season of all time. So I know he gets banged up. He's already hurt this year. He was hurt all last year. But before he got hurt last year, he was also the #1 receiver last year. He was better than Jefferson.
Yep.
So cover for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say health. I keep pounding that, but health. If he stays healthy and Matthew Stafford stays healthy, there's potential for another Triple Crown. And again, like you said, for the Rams to cover that, 6.5, 7?
6.5 wins.
Yeah. He's so good and came from Eastern Washington, baby, Big Sky country. But yeah, Cooper Kupp is just, he's the dude you look at and go, there's no way that dude's an NFL receiver, and he torches everyone.
Torch every corner of the league.
He'll drop 150 on your head, and then you're like, oh, shit. Well, he's that dude. He is that dude,
yeah,
for sure.
3, I got Jamar.
Okay.
Pound for pound with JJ, for me, the best one-on-one receiver in the league.
Okay.
Dude just goes up and gets it. And I think where he is severely underrated is his after the catch ability. His after a catch ability is elite. It's electric. And like we saw rookie season, he was taking screens for 60-yard touchdowns. It seemed just over and over and over again. He was taking slants, making 10-yard slants into 25-yard gains. And he makes it look easy. He makes it look really easy. And at his size, his speed, his athleticism, there's not a single corner in the freaking league that can guard him. When we name our corners list, not a single dude on that list can guard Jamar Chase one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I would bet my life on it.
There you go.
So the only reason he's 3 on this list is, yeah, injury, and I do have to give like 2% credit to Burrow. There's a reason he's that good.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice. Number 3. What's the one thing you can't teach?
Speed.
Speed. You want to know who the fastest man alive in the NFL is? Tyreek Hill. I have Tyreek Hill at 3. Him and Tua were dirty last year. It would not surprise me if he goes for over 2K. I think he is. I think he's a matchup nightmare because no one can catch him. If Tua puts the ball in the right spot, no one can catch him. Yeah. That's the one thing you can't teach in this league is speed. Yeah. And I just love Tyreek. I am a big Tyreek guy. I think this year could be a breakout if Tua stays healthy. And that's also going into the account of Waddle will probably have a breakout year. Yep. But yeah, I think Tyreek Hill has that potential. I think more than other than #1 to probably have a 2,000-yard season this year.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually the one guy that's not on my list. He was 6th on my list. And yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. Like, Waddle's taken up 100 to 150 targets, and we're talking about Tyreek hitting 2,000 yards still. Like, that's how electric he is in the open field. That's why when he gets thrown in motion in these plays, defenses just freak out and they become erratic. And there's just spots open in these zones and they just feast constantly because these defenses just do not know how to scheme for all the speed that's on the field. And Tua is the best, probably mid-range thrower in the league. 10 to 25 yards. Tua is putting that freaking thing on the money damn near every time. So, and the offense is just beautiful. So, I can definitely see why you have Hill. I have Tay Adams too on my list. That dude played with god awful Derek Carr last year.
He's gonna have a god awful quarterback again.
And I still think he's gonna have 1,500 yards.
Yep.
And he'll probably have double-digit touchdowns. He is so underrated in the red zone. That dude is a freaking monster in the red zone. And Grant, you have the Rodgers to Adams connection, like they had in Green Bay. It was literally Rodgers could throw those balls with his eyes closed, and he knew Adams was coming down with it. They were running pick plays, fades, just constantly hitting Adams. And it didn't really seem like that last year, and he was still phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like you almost didn't hear as much about him, and he was just still putting up those types of numbers.
Yeah, and I feel like he flew a little bit under the radar. He's still, in my opinion, pound for pound, the best route runner in the league. And he's just constantly open. He's constantly open, and when he needs to make contested catches, he can. So he's entering his age 30 season, I believe. So we're getting the next 4 years will probably be the last great years of Davante Adams, and I still think he's the top 2 receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have Davante Adams at 2. If Jimmy Garoppolo can be somewhat slightly better than Derek Carr, it's going to be a problem for the league. The Raiders will still only win 5 games, but at least Davante Adams.
That's how bad that defense is.
Yeah, don't get me started. When you only have Max Crosby, yeah. But again, Davante Adams, just like Bailey said, I think he's the best pure route runner in football. And he again just sounded like he was under the radar last year and put up over 1,500 yards. And that's because he played for the Raiders. Like, literally it. I think there's more talk about the Raiders this year just because of a new quarterback and Josh Jacobs being back. So maybe he gets a little more recognition, but again, pound for pound best route runner. He just needs a quarterback. It doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers, but he just needs a quarterback to get him the ball. Like, that's really it. Once he has the ball in his hand, your work's done as a quarterback.
And number 1, JJ.
Yeah, I don't think there's much debate.
No. Especially coming from me. The most electric player in football right now is Justin Jefferson. We talk about the spectacular catch ability that he makes
his range
so routine.
Oh, God.
So it gives me shades of Odell Beckham. Shades of Odell Beckham. He makes these really, really, really tough catches look pedestrian.
Too easy.
Way too easy. And he rips off chunks in 20s. They're not 10s. They're not 5s. You don't ever look at the stat sheet and be like, man, except for when it's Philly and Kirk Cousins is playing god awful. But you don't really ever look at the stat sheet for Jefferson and be like, 15 targets, 8 catches, 48 yards. That's not in his DNA. It's 15 catches, it's 15 targets, and it's 8 catches. But it's 160 yards and maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. That's what Jefferson is all about. He shreds the middle of the field. He eats it alive. And he eats every corner alive. And, except Slay, but
I mean Jair.
But the first game,
when
yes, Green Bay was in zone, Jair looked freaking lost.
Yep.
So I think that's more of a scheme. I don't think that's even a Jefferson thing. If you play man on Jefferson, you are done for.
Yep.
You're screwed. If you play zone and you can confuse Kirk Cousins, then you actually have a chance of guarding Jefferson. And I think the second year of O'Connell is going to be better. I hope our offense is a touch more balanced this year. Just 50 pass attempts a game is just utter ridiculousness. And there's such limited balance, even with Dalvin Cook there. And now no Dalvin, I think it's probably going to go in the other direction where we're going to be more towards 55 pass attempts a game instead of more towards 45. But that just means more targets for Jefferson. So more for Hawkinson. And Jefferson, he's just amazing. He's incredible. What more can I say about him?
I mean, he's going to reset the market. So it's like,
he's going to be getting QB money.
Yep. That's how valuable he is. That's how much of a game changer he is. And he, frankly, I don't think I've ever seen him play a bad game. Like,
yeah, I would probably agree with that.
Rookie year, didn't play a bad game. last year. I don't recall a bad game.
Leads the league in receiving yards since he's entered the league.
He's putting up Randy Moss numbers, and it's giving you shades of Randy Moss. Like it's incredible to watch. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how much maybe more they go to him without an Adam Thielen, but like they drafted a Jordan Addison for that reason.
And they traded for Hawkinson for that.
And they traded for Hawkinson for that reason. So I think it'll be interesting to see the full year of Hawkinson and Jefferson, just because Hawkinson feels like he does need the ball a lot at the tight end position. But Justin Jefferson is going to put up numbers where he's in MVP conversation. So it's like, it's whatever at that point.
And another candidate for 2.
100%.
Tight end. 5, I got Waller.
Okay.
Just the athletic ability. And this list, honestly, I was like, what the hell? But I think that's actually for 6 down. Waller's had 2 really down years.
Yeah.
But when he's healthy and on the field, he's so freaking good. And he causes matchup nightmares all across. I hope the Giants can use him in that way. So that 7.5 over can hit for me. But and I think it will. I think he's going to be. Giants fans are overreacting. They're saying he's going to be the next freaking Kelsey, which he's not. But I think there was immense upside for him in that offense, especially with a bunch of slot receivers there and Isaiah Hodgins, basically. And you got Slayton on the outside, Paris Campbell's there, and what the hell is Rondell Robinson doing there? And we don't really know what the receivers are going to look like. I think the one sure thing is going to be Darren Waller and Saquon Barkley in this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. My 5 is the man that just reset the tight end market. I got TJ Hawkinson at 5.
$16.5 million a year. I don't know if I'm a fan. I would prefer 14.
Okay, but what? 2 million more.
It matters.
It matters when you gotta pay Jefferson. That's fair.
That's a vet mid. Those guys are essential. Like I think Patrick Peterson on the Steelers, I think it's gonna be essential. Like he's their number 1 corner this year. He's on a vet mid.
Yeah.
So anyway, continue.
TJ Hawkinson's so fun to watch. I'm so happy he got out of that shithole known as Detroit. Though I like Detroit this year. Of course, he gets out the year I like him. I think he brings so much to this offense for when you can't load the box to stop the run and cover him. And you can't have the safety over the top covering him because that just leaves the middle of the field open for Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
And so then that means they're going to leave the safety over the top for Justin Jefferson. So really Hawkinson's going to be on a linebacker all game where he's just going to torch a dude because he's a great route runner at tight end and he blocks.
Yep.
He's a great blocker.
He is.
I love TJ Hawkinson. I wanted to put him higher, but there's a dude I'm going off potential with, and that's where I'll leave that.
Yeah, Hawkinson's my 4.
Perfect.
I would just rebuttal everything you said about him. I think when he came to Minnesota, I was a little worried about the capital we gave up for him, and the contract we gave him. And I'm still slightly worried about the contract that we just gave him. If anyone's resetting the market, should just be Kelsey getting a contract extension every year.
Yeah.
But bar none, I think he was the second best tight end.
None.
But
No more.
Yeah. I think he was the second best tight end last year once he got to Minnesota. He was absolutely phenomenal. Just racking up targets that Thielen couldn't eat and KJ Osborne couldn't sustain. So now that Thielen's gone, KJ's still there, but we draft Addison. I think 10 targets a game for Hawkinson is a very realistic expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. For me at 4, I have Darren Waller off the potential that he could be elite in that New York offense. I just think, again, they haven't had any weapon outside of Saquon since Odell.
Yeah.
And I think Daniel Jones, who had a good year last year, I think this is where you could see the potential growth because he'll have a tight end to check down to. Because when they had Bellinger? Yeah.
He's fine.
And he's a fine tight end, but he's no Darren Waller.
Yeah.
Darren Waller is a specimen, to say the least. And I just think I'll take the potential of what I could get out of Darren Waller right now compared to what I know I'm going to get out of TJ Hawkinson. I know what I'm getting from TJ Hawkinson with a Justin Jefferson. I am excited about the potential, not as a Cowboys fan, but as a fan of football.
I'm a fan of Darren Waller.
And a fan of Darren Waller.
Yeah, completely agree. 3 for me is George Kittle.
Yep.
Two's Mark Andrews,
Yep.
one's Travis Kelce.
No, yeah.
Kittle, I'm so sick of Kittle and Kelsey continuing to be a debate. I think it's the worst take in all of sports.
They were close for a year.
Yeah, the year. And Kelsey has been alien-like for the last bit. And Kittle's been inconsistent, I think. I think he's still perfect for San Francisco. He's still the best blocking tight end in the league,
Yep.
and that's not even close. He's still explosive when after the catch, especially. Like that's what San Francisco dominates in is yards after the catch. Everyone gets yards after the catch. McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle especially. But once they get ahead of steam going, you're not stopping them. So if Kittle continues the momentum that he got with Purdy, 7 touchdowns in 4 games to end the regular season last year. He's still easily the number 3 tight end in my opinion. Probably number 2. That's debatable. I think Andrews and Kelsey or Kittle are very, very, very close, and in their own little mini tier there. But he's still a phenomenal tight end and one you definitely want on your roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he just opens up that offense for McCaffrey to cook, whether it's blocking or just having the constant linebacker come up and try to cover him. I think the reason I also have Mark Andrews, I just think Mark Andrews, I think means more to that Ravens offense right now than Kittle does to San Francisco's offense.
The last 2 years, I think.
Exactly. And now they finally bring in receivers for Lamar there. But Mark Andrews is such a matchup nightmare for teams because he is so big, but he is so athletic. His cuts in the red zone near the goal line are just poetry in motion. It is he takes a guy in and flips on a dime and he's right there and makes Lamar's job as a passer so much easier. Like Andrews isn't there. We are probably just still having the talk of Lamar being a running back just because he's had no wide receivers. It has been only Mark Andrews. And now they finally get help outside, I think, with Odell and getting Zay Flowers. So maybe Andrews' numbers goes down a touch. But
he's more efficient though.
But he's so much more efficient. He's gonna be so much more efficient with the ball in his hand.
Yeah, and he's gonna have more room to work over the middle now. No, now that Odell's there, there's gonna be less safety help over where they can pinch the middle of the field with their single high safety and linebackers and just double cover Andrews in that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be so much less of that because now you do actually. I think Odell's actually primed for a really good season. If he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, he could be really good.
You saw shades of that in LA.
And they have a new offensive coordinator now. They're saying they're going to run the ball a lot less. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I think a lot less from being 45 carries a game to 35. That's 4 more targets for Mark Andrews a game, in my opinion.
Yeah. Maybe
3 to 4. And he is going to make do with those targets. Those are going to be catches. Those are going to be positive yards for that offense in bulk. Mm-hmm. So, I love Mark Andrews this year. I think he's a phenomenal fantasy pick. I think he's a phenomenal player. And there's a reason he's number 2 on this list over Kittle. Yeah, I think for us, like going on the fantasy a little bit, it's like if you don't get Kelsey, you should probably get Mark Andrews. Like I feel like it's not even, oh, do I go Kittle or do I go Andrews? I feel like you go for Mark Andrews. And he might be, I mean, he's always been the constant like threat in that offense outside of Lamar running the ball. Yeah. There's scary potential Baltimore could be scary good if they figure it out. Oh yeah. If they figure it out enough with that new receiving core and Lamar stays healthy, they could make some noise. Absolutely. And Mark Andrews is a big part of that. I think Kelsey at 1.
He's always open.
Unfreaking stoppable. When you think the drop off is coming, he gets exponentially better.
He gets so much better.
It's like, oh, no more Tyreek Hill. They can double cover him. Who else on that offense are they going to throw to? It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Freaking triple team. He's getting open. He is getting open in ways that you didn't think he could get open. Andy Reid is scheming him in ways that you didn't think he could get open. And then he makes do with those opportunities. Even in bad games, he had 7 catches. In the Raiders game, 37 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns. In the good games, he's 8 for 180 and 2, maybe 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 4 touchdowns is a bad day if you only have 30 yards.
For him. Yeah. And that's he'll have 1 game a year where he has under 50 yards. Otherwise, he's triple digits. guaranteed freaking stamp it. And he never gets hurt, knock on wood. And he's the most consistent player in football for the past 5 years. He's got yardage numbers up with Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson. Those are the only 2 other guys that have more yards than him in the past 3 years.
Do you think he'd go for 2?
And he could get 2.
That's scary.
Statistically, he's the 3rd best receiver in the league.
Yep.
And that includes wide receivers.
Yep.
So not is he only clearly the best tight end. I think he's a top 5 player in football, period. And he's undeniably fantastic and will probably go down as the best tight end of all time.
Yep. Very fair.
Moving on.
I think we move on.
What's next? Tackles?
Yes, tackle.
Go ahead. You can name your 5.
My big boys.
Yep.
Do you want just
Let's just do all 5.
Orlando Brown at 5.
Okay.
Tunsil at 4. Lane Johnson 3. Armstead 2. Trent Williams 1.
Okay, I got the same 5 guys, different order. Tunsil 5, Armstead 4, Orlando Brown Jr. 3. I think the addition of him in Kansas City's offense last year was massive for Mahomes.
And he'll be in Cincinnati.
And now he's in Cincinnati, so it's going to be massive for Burrow. Lane Johnson, who's been busted for steroids late in his career, so
Perfect.
he's going to be fantastic.
Perfect.
And Trent Williams, who's been the best offensive tackle for the last decade.
I with tackle, I'd say the best. Joe Thomas, but the Browns were never good. But so, yeah, I'd say the last decade because
Top
at least
tackle for the last decade. Interior line, fire.
Ooh, fire away. Interior offensive line. So I feel like our top 4 are going to be the same. So it's kind of at 5. I went Joel Bitonio for the Cleveland Browns.
And I went Joe Tooney of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Perfect. I think Joel Bitonio just elevates what Nick Chubb can do at the running back position. So that's why I put him there, just because I think without him, Nick Chubb is not as good within the tackles.
Yep, absolutely. And I would say that with Tooney, Kansas City feasts off those inside zone base plays.
Pacheco!
And Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon can't do work without Tooney up there in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the ability for him to take on really, really, really good D tackles on the interior, and you can leave him one-on-one in those matchups. Especially, even with the rest of his line there, you still got the guy's number 4 on my list, Creed Humphrey.
Yeah,
who's the 2nd best center in the league. And then you got Trey Smith, who I also debated having on this list. So they got 3 of the 5-6 best interior linemen in the game. And it shows. It completely helps Mahomes, and they've smoothed out a really nice pocket for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't have to worry about having elite tackles. I think it's a little scary in KC, maybe not having Orlando Brown, but I mean, we'll see. They survived without him before he got there. So
Exactly.
But yeah, I have Creed Humphrey at 4 as well. Same deal. At 3, I have the best center in football, Jason Kelsey.
I do too.
He ages like wine. He gets better every year. And every year he comes back, Sirianni gets him another keg of beer. So if that keeps rolling, I think we might see Jason Kelsey for another 5. I'm kidding. We won't see him for another 5. But he single-handedly maybe runs the most unstoppable play with a quarterback. Yeah. And it's that quarterback sneak because he just gets so low on D tackles that all Jalen Hurts has to do is wait for it and just power over it. He doesn't have to jump over it. He just powers over it, and he gets 5 yards every play. It's unstoppable, and he's a big reason for that.
Absolutely. I also had Kelsey at 3. We're probably gonna go a different order here. I got Zach Martin 2, Quentin Nelson 1.
Yeah, I have Nelson 2, Martin 1.
And it's interchangeable. They've been the 2 best guards for the past half decade, and it's not even close.
No, it's not even close, and it's kind of like when one year the one guy is either having a down year or hurt, the other one is the better one, and then it just rotates. I just personally like Zach Martin because he's been doing it longer, and he's a Cowboy, so that's where I leave that. Quentin Nelson, I will say though, kind of started the trend of people taking a lot more Notre Dame offensive linemen. Like Zach Martin is a Notre Dame offensive lineman, but I think once Quentin Nelson got drafted, you saw McGlinchey, you saw what's his bucket? I'm blanking. Don't. Yeah.
You know who he plays for?
No, I'm blanking. He was another tackle. Did Ronnie Stanley Jr. play it?
I'm not a no line. It's a good guy. I'm sorry.
No, it's I can't remember when Ronnie Stanley played. I think Ronnie Stanley played tackle at Notre Dame.
All right. We'll roll with it.
We'll roll with it. We'll say it's right. Yeah, I think Quentin Nelson started a trend and keeps that going, and if he has Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, Jonathan Taylor will feast. So It comes down to that for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So I think we're going to stop here. That's at an hour for us. So that's just the offensive side. The next pod will be the defensive side of the ball.
And the corners.
The corners, the edges. Those are going to be very, very, very interesting lists. So we'll have that on the next one. Follow us on Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast. Go check us out on Spotify if you're not listening to the YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, comment.
Do all that, Jets.
What do you think of the list? Name your top 5 players in football right now in the comments, regardless of position.
That's tough.
Actually, top 5 offensive players.
Yeah.
Regardless of position. And then on the next one, we'll have you name your top 5 defensive players. So yeah, go check out the defensive one we'll have coming out. We got a bunch of NFL content still rolling. It's really nice to be back. Second episode back. So
yes, sir.
Go do all that. We're gonna do the defensive stuff, and we'll see you for that one.
Yes, sir.
Logan Bailey. All right, guys. Peace.